And yes, we are back. We are the Vinyl Vandals. Thank you again for tuning in. You know, it's been a great journey for us, and we really appreciate the fact that you even asked to tune in and see what we think and what other people think. So thank you for that. Okay, my name is King Fred. I'm a Vinyl Vandal, and I'm going to pass you across to my colleague.
Oh yeah, I'm John. You know who I am already. I talk a lot. Well, I don't really, but below us we've got a special guest who is.
So I'm Darren, and I work with Fred. So I'm a project counsellor at Fred's work at Streetwise, and he asked me to come on, and I was a bit reluctant. You know, this isn't my sort of most comfortable area, but yeah, no, I'm up for it, and yeah, it's definitely sort of mixing things up a bit. You know, I don't go on many YouTube podcast type things. This is my first one, so yeah. Thanks, Fred. Thanks, John.
Well, thank you very much for agreeing to doing this, Darren. You know, I think it's like we've just been talking off camera there. I think it's really important that we get different types of people on. You know, you've got your hip hop fans who walk it and talk it and breathe it, which a lot of people know I do, and John does. But then we've also got people who are sort of like undercover hip hop fans that you wouldn't know unless you started like asking them and speaking to them. So obviously, worked with you a long time, Darren, at Streetwise now. And it was just all by getting to talk to you and then realizing, oh, actually, he's a hip hop. He's not just somebody who likes a couple. He knows his stuff, and that's great. Because sometimes you don't always know people. I think people can tell after 5 seconds of looking at me that I like hip hop, or I assume they do, or that I like rap. So thanks for doing it. Thanks for agreeing to do it. I've pestered other people at work, and they still haven't agreed yet, but I will keep browbeating them until they do. So thanks for that. Okay. To sit back, be comfortable, Darren, and we'll start. And we'll start with your first one. If you want to just introduce. So before we start, have you picked UK or American, just to tell the people at home?
So I've gone US.
Okay, great. Will you come back in the future and do UK?
I will. I struggled a lot with the US. Like I've got my UK #1 hands down.
Yeah.
But I haven't got, which obviously I'm not going to share with you now.
Nope.
But I haven't got the other 4 yet. But yeah, if I'm invited, if this goes okay, I'd be happy to be invited back.
It'll go super duper smashing fantastic. Don't you worry about that. Okay, so don't worry at all.
Okay.
Just sit back, relax. Okay. Yeah, we're not here to torture or anything like that. It's just have a chat. Okay, a chat that's on camera. Have you got a hierarchy of who you've picked, or is it just as it comes?
I can't. I couldn't. I know. I struggle with the hierarchy, and actually, I'll explain this in a bit. I listened to them all again quite recently.
Yeah. And
that made the hierarchy even harder. So they're just the 5 best. I had a top one, and then I fell in love 5 times over again, so I couldn't choose. So
I feel your pain, Darren. I feel your pain. I've done one, as you say, you've watched it. I've done one, the UK one, and I've also recorded my US one. It hasn't come out yet, but we've got it in the vaults ready. And we're both really difficult. I'm still kicking myself that I didn't pick this one or that one. It's still in there, so I feel your pain. Okay, on that one then, you want to introduce your first album pick?
Okay, so my first one is this one.
Yeah.
So this is Run DMC's Raising Hell.
Okay, nice.
In a way, this one's probably always going to be the first one.
Yeah.
The first one I choose, just because I think because of it was the first time I remember hearing Walk This Way on the radio for the first time, and then going to school. I've tried not to do loads of research about it and just go off my memories.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, If You Let Me Stay by Terence Trent D'Arby might have been a year or 2 later. Okay. But they're both these songs with these really bonkers choruses, these really screechy kind of, like, they're unlike anything else in the charts. I didn't know Aerosmith before I'd heard this.
Yeah.
And just hearing that song was like, well, what the hell's this?
Yeah.
And I think of all the hip hop bands, Run DMC seemed to be the one that made the most impact with me and my mates and with people at school at the time.
Yeah.
So, go on.
No, I was just going to say, interestingly enough, when you sent me the list, obviously, just so that people know, we like to know what people are picking, just so we can do a little bit of research to refresh our memories, if either because I haven't heard it, or if I have heard it, I maybe haven't played it for a while. And I used to play that album to death. I think I played it so much I got a bit sick of it.
Okay.
But I don't think Run DMC it hasn't been picked at all, John, has it? When you think of what the status is in hip hop, yeah, and none Run DMC albums have been picked, which is quite interesting in itself. So you're the first, so nice one on that.
Okay. Yes, okay. Get in.
Yeah. Well, before you put it down,
it's still by my side.
Yeah.
My hand hurts a bit from holding it.
Okay.
It's so small.
It's okay. Yeah. Is there anything you want to say on it, John?
I think what you said as well. I think I played it that much that if I listen to it now, I still love it, but it has. I think I played it too much that I wouldn't say bored of it, but it's just not the same anymore. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm the same. I remember having that album on cassette. Okay, because for those who know, I used to go to the gym a lot, like boxing and that, and I had that on cassette, and I had the Beastie Boys on cassette, Licensed to Ill. I had both of them at the same time on cassette, and I got the girlfriend I had at the time, a lass called Helen, bought me a boombox, so I could obviously walk around and train with it when I was training. They'd take it to the gym with us and that. And I used to walk along the street to the gym with it, listen to it all the time. I used to go through some batteries. And I just played those two albums constantly when I was skipping, when I was doing sit-ups. And I just think it got to the point where I can't listen to this anymore. Although I still love it, and I'm probably, this weekend I'm going to be blasting it again now that we're talking about it. And there's so many good songs on there, but I just got a bit sick of it, So yeah, I do love that album though, to be fair.
Well, when I listened back to it the other week, I made a couple of notes on each one because things that struck me from listening to it. It was probably maybe November or December that I listened to it.
Yeah.
And the thing I was struck with was compared to the other hip hop albums that I've chosen, it's the production's really simple on it. There's no great sort of spangly stuff on it. It's all quite basic stuff. The elements are there, but there's no, it's pretty no nonsense.
Yeah.
The beats aren't too. It's not too sort of muddled. They're sort of everything's really tight.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel. Yeah. I quite like it's not overproduced and it's just sort of.
Yeah. But
quite simple and straightforward. Yeah.
I know they went on Def Jam, but they were part of all of that kind of thing, weren't they? Because obviously they got sent to a better deal. It was a Profile, I think the album was on, wasn't
Profile,
it?
yeah.
Profile. But I think the thing I like, obviously at the time about that, is a lot of the sort of Def Jam, that kind of, obviously I would put them in the Def Jam, or is it Rush Management, is in his brother. Yeah. They all had that sort of like stripped down sparse beat when you think about LL Cool J, obviously early Beastie Boys. They all had that sort of like, it was mainly not much music, it was more drum machines, wasn't it? Than it was sort of like in a way of music. And at the time I loved that. I absolutely loved it, So yeah, it was great. So, Darren.
Yes.
What's your favourite song off that album?
Because of the history of it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Listening back, like I didn't really pick up on the brilliant sort of My Sharona sample of It's Tricky.
Yeah.
And that sounds really great, but my heart's with Walk This Way. I'm afraid. Okay. I think that there's loads of good stuff on it, but Walk This Way is kind of probably the foundation of me kind of falling for hip hop. So. Yeah. I think that's a no-brainer for me.
John, what would be yours? Would you reckon?
You mentioned it. It's tricky, I think.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Okay. With the knack. Is it the knack? My Sharona?
Yeah.
Okay. Mine would be, I absolutely, and to this day, I'll never get sick of that, is, what do you call it? Peter Piper.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this sort of like, the way Jam Master Jay just cuts that up. I just absolutely love it. You know what I mean? It's just, I remember seeing it live in Brixton. Is it Brixton or somewhere in London? but I saw them live, and they were just the way that was just sounded absolutely brilliant. I was just mesmerized by it. Just like, how can somebody make music like that? Like, that's not actually using instruments. It was just amazing to me to see it. Like, it'll always stay with us. Yeah, definitely. What do you call it, Peter Piper? Brilliant. Okay, thanks very much for that, Darren.
Cool, you're welcome.
So, Darren, hip hop in your history.
Okay.
Just a little bit. I don't want you to go all the way to present day. I just want you to talk about your first sort of like introduction to hip hop. Where were you? Who were you with? Yeah.
Okay, so it's tricky to remember because there was even though there was like the Run DMC, that single, and the impact on with me at school, hip hop was kind of there. So I think we listened to a lot of Capital Radio when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I guess sort of Grandmaster Flash, I'm guessing like Sugar Hill Gang, they were played on the radio as pop songs.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this, like, this might not have happened in the Northeast. So I grew up, we moved when I was 10 to Surrey. So I lived sort of Surrey way, about 20 minutes on the train from the centre of London.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember they had Grandmaster Flash's The Message.
Yeah.
They had a road safety advert using that song.
Yes,
right. Johnny was a fool. Johnny was a fool. He didn't act cool. He didn't walk. Didn't look out. He didn't. Well, I can't remember. But Johnny wasn't cool. He didn't. He acted the fool. He didn't watch out. He lost his cool. He didn't stop and look. He didn't stop, look, and listen. He didn't use his head. And if he doesn't watch out, he's going to end up dead. It was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those lines. Yeah.
And it's like, obviously that was a song a track that I knew already.
Yeah. Yeah. So
the fact that I guess that was like a public information film.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we're using hip hop means that it's kind of been there for such a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and I've reflected on this a bit, and so the thing was, I guess I was really into my Now albums as well.
Who?
Now That's What I Call Music albums.
All right. Okay. Right.
And I did ask for a compilation, which was obviously rejected, which was this thing I had on tape called Rap Tracks. And
yes.
I resisted looking. I looked today, and I'd looked on Discogs at it, and it's 1988, and there's like We Papa Girl rappers on, and like I Know You Got Soul, and it had like, I think it had like loads that wasn't really hip hop. It had a fair bit of like electro and house on as well. Yeah. So it's like I'd remembered it being pretty much all hip hop, but it wasn't. But the thing I remember from the Now That's What I Call Music albums, I can't remember what number it is, but one of them had the big hit single by Derek B.
Yes.
Bad Young Brother.
Bad Young Brother,
yes.
Which had the Prince sample on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I listened to that track so much that I knew all the words to it. I think that's the only hip hop song or track that I knew. I can't remember any of them now.
Yeah.
Like I remember him sort of shouting out to his mum and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, yeah. So like that was probably the first one that I like totally fell in love with. The first one that I was like, I mean, it didn't reflect my life, like a middle class white boy in Surrey, but it was just, yes, something connected in me, and I'm just like, right, I love this.
Nice one. You've mentioned some things there that remind me straight away. So I have Rap Tracks somewhere on cassette. I don't know where it is, but I know I've got it. That's what I originally had. Because I used to, like I say, because I used to train, a lot of my stuff was on cassette because I used to have a Walkman.
Yeah.
Go jogging and stuff. I've got Rap Tracks on CD, and I've also got Rap Tracks on vinyl. So I've got the whole set. And then obviously Derek B. I've got his album, and I've got some of his like 12 inches as well. So you've mentioned some stuff. You brought some nostalgia and memories back to me. What about you, John?
Yeah, definitely. I think Bullet from the Gun was probably one of the first rap albums I actually bought.
Right. Okay.
So what year was that? 80. 87?
No, I would have been about 80, 88, I would have thought, yeah.
Yeah, so I was still at school. Now I'm having that, so definitely.
Nice one, Darren. Nice one. Yeah.
I've got one more memory, which is, so, you know, one of the things that worried me when you said about the favorite 5 albums is, as a lad, as a teenager, I was all about the singles. I wasn't really about the albums so much.
Interesting.
And so, like, picking 10 songs, that would be really tough, but yeah, I could do that quite easily, where I found the albums a bit tougher.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a teenager, albums weren't really my thing. So, like, and because music wasn't so readily available, there were a couple of lads at school who had Public Enemy hoodies and Public Enemy sort of, you know, like t-shirts.
Yeah.
And I listened to Westwood a little bit on Capitol, but other than that, I didn't have really any access to hip hop. So I hadn't heard Public Enemy until I was older, because it wasn't, you know, pushing the boat out and buying an album of something I'd never heard. That was, you know, I didn't really do that so much. That was a bit risky. So there was, in a way, I felt a bit on the outside, because, you know, I was a pop radio fan and a pop compilation fan. So, like, when like Push It was on, or when the Fat Boys were on, I was all over that. But in terms of hearing the edgier stuff, particularly the stuff that people have chosen on this before, I hadn't heard it when it was released.
Yeah,
you know.
I think for me, I was, you know, obviously this is well documented now, because we've said it a few times on other recordings that we've done. But I'm lucky, because I am older than a lot of people that I speak to, and I was already going down to London. I'm from Newcastle, born and raised, but my mum moved to London when I was about, I can't remember how old I was now, but she moved to London, and then my sisters followed. So then I started going down to visit them a lot. And by 87, 88, I was going down a lot. And that's when I first saw Run DMC and Public Enemy, you know what I mean? They were playing live by then. And so I was getting snippets of it, then come back in Newcastle, with my little cassettes. But there was nothing much up here that I knew of. You know, people have corrected it and said there was stuff on the telly, but I never saw it on the telly. So I got a lot of my stuff from going down to London, and I just think, obviously, you just hit the nail on the head there. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that I was seeing was the pop stuff. So it was the Fat Boys. It was We Papa Girl rappers. It was that Rock the House. Come on, what was that? Was it? What was Rock the House with the House Masters, Beat Masters or something, and the girl rappers? I can't remember what they were called now. Can you remember, John? Rock the House. It was like a house sort of.
And I know the one you mean, but
I'll come back to us. But
I think it might have been the Beatmasters. I'm not sure. Again, this is
Beatmasters made the music, and it was the female rappers that rapped over the top of it.
The She Rockers.
The She Rockers or something. And was one of them not what went on to be Betty Boo? And can't remember.
Yes, I'm sure it might be the She Rockers then.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's just that was the kind of thing that we were hearing and seeing, because we weren't really seeing any of the, you know, obviously Walk This Way was a groundbreaking one, because that sort of broke the ice sort of brought the mainstream people into that kind of music, you know what I mean? But yeah, definitely some history there. Thanks for sharing that, Darren, because that's give me a lot of memories. Sort of like put it back in my locker with some of them. Nice one. Okay, next album.
Right, next album. Right, I haven't planned this very well. I'm down to 20% on my phone, so hopefully we won't be too disrupted. But we'll just let's hope I don't black out. We'll see how it goes.
We can pause it, and you can go and get your charger if you need to.
All right, we'll see. We'll try and weather our way through it if we can. Right, power through. The next one's this.
Okay, interesting. Okay, again.
I want to say, obviously, I think the next one, I don't think I could have, you know, I think this is a pretty obvious one for me. They all are. And in fact, like, spoiler alert, they're all quite big albums. I haven't gone too niche or too left field.
Yeah.
But I think these are the ones that have soundtracked stuff for me, so.
But again, Darren, you're saying that, but then this is the first time this one's been picked as well. Never been picked. Yeah, it's always on people's lists of being a top album, but it hasn't been picked in my top 5s yet. So, yeah, go on. So what's it about that album that you like?
Okay, so I was never really into the Fugees.
Okay, interesting.
At the time, they were on the radio all the time. I know that's not their choice, but it was just played. I was at uni, and every time I went anywhere, like Killing Me Softly was on, Ready or Not was on, and it, yeah, it was just this like ubiquitous music that was there all the time. So it was a bit hard to be, you know, to be a bit objective. And then she's now Ms. Lauryn Hill. Ms. Lauryn Hill kind of had singles out. I don't know whether Do What That Thing was the first single.
Can't remember.
It was.
But that kind of came on the scene, and I thought, oh, you know, this is pretty great. And yeah, I listened to this just before. I listened to about half of this just before this.
Yeah.
Do What That Thing came on, and it took me back to World Headquarters. I know, you know, World Headquarters is a kind of a bit of a. I know that, yeah. If some people love it, some people don't love it. But it's very much one of my places with my mates, and I suppose there's a period like from me being at school to me not falling out of love with hip hop, but just it not being such a big feature in my life.
Yeah,
and then festivals and clubbing happened for me around the same sort of time.
Yeah,
and when I hear Do What That Thing, it takes me back to probably New World Headquarters.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was played in Marlborough Crescent.
Yeah.
I'm going back to New World Headquarters, Curtis Mayfield House.
Yeah.
And just so like Tommy the DJ dropping it, and he'd probably put the vinyl on his little rack behind. Yeah. Which however people feel about it, I love that. I loved. I'm a nerd, so I love to know something. I love to know what's being played.
Yeah, well, you're in good company here because we're all nerds here, so don't worry about that.
and it's just what a song! Like, and again, listening to it today, how she can pack in all these great lyrics, some of which I can't get my head around exactly, but it's all this great stuff about, you know, men and women being stereotypes of whatever, but it being this like total brilliant banger. This absolute anthemically great song.
Yeah.
And there's that. And then as an album, I think there's a lot on it. And like, I guess I'm going to talk a bit about skits. Well, you know, skits are a thing in hip hop albums. And I think these ones, these aren't lol hilarious type skits, but like they don't get boring. All the high school stuff is kind of, it's romantic and kind of adorable, and it kind of goes against some of the lyrics that are going on in the song, in the different tracks. But it's just, right, I'm not sure whether, I can't get my head around whether it's a concept album about love or whether there's just these sort of intermission-y bits in between, but it just hangs together like really great. Like the collaborations are magic, and like she can do gospel, she can do ballads, she can rap. She's like, you know, like she's a total like all-rounder, you know.
Yeah.
Like when I listened to it not long ago, I was thinking, is she like I thought of like she's like a female rapping Stevie Wonder, but that's taken away from her because she's herself, and she's, you know, like she might not have come back with something amazing after this, but like just this is just, you know, she does it all. I think
it's a hard one, isn't it? I think I've had this discussion before with people, and I think sometimes when someone's the first album is so good, it's really, really hard to come after that because nobody will accept anything. Whereas if you just sort of come with a good album, it's not a masterpiece in a lot of people's eyes, but a really good album that hooks people in, you can then grow with them and you can get other ones. But that album to me is first class, and it was always gonna be hard for it to beat that. It's a bit like Nas's Illmatic. Nobody will accept anything else from Nas apart from Illmatic because that's such a good album.
So I need to name check one of my mates, who's Dave. Who is kind of my album hero because he's kind of a completist. Yeah. And where if something sounds great, I'll stick with it. It probably comes from me being happy with singles when I was a lad. Yeah. But the idea of getting all the albums and possibly sitting through some of the more challenging stuff. Sometimes I quite like an easy life. So instead of going with, you know, I mean, this has got the name escapes me now, but there's the cover, which is the kind of the bonus hidden album track. Which I don't think it's Everything's Everything, but I think there's one anyway. I Can't Take My Eyes Off You is the hidden bonus one, and that's great. I can manage that. But in terms of like getting like special editions of things and having the extra tracks, I'm fine. This is kind of perfectly made at the time. I don't need bonus material.
Right, I'm sort of in the middle on that one, because what I tend to do is, now that album's old, you can sort of, if you go on somewhere like eBay and places like that, or Discogs, sometimes if you're a vulture like me and you sit around, you can sometimes pick things up for quite cheap, and I don't mind doing that. I would never go out and get the same album for a ridiculous price. But if there's someone selling it for $1.99 and stuff, I'll get it. Do you know what I mean? Because to me, £2, what's £2? £2's a kind of pop now, isn't it? So to me, I'd rather get sort of another Lauryn Hill album that's got extra bonus tracks on. So, for instance, I've got the London Posse's album when it first came out on vinyl. When it came out on CD with extra tracks on it, I got the CD because it had extra tracks on it. Some people may think you're mad and all of that, but I just thought, no, I'll get that one because I got it cheap, so I'm not bothered, you know. What do you think about that album, John?
I prefer the Fuji stuff to that album. I know why everybody loves it so much and why it won so many Grammys and everything like that. But I still prefer the Fugees to that.
I'm a funny one. I love that album, but actually, and everybody always goes about the Fugees score. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the first album.
First album, Blunt on Reality, is far better.
Yes, Translator Crew. It's an absolutely belter of an album, that to me. Like, I love it. Wolfcraft and that, I just love those tracks like that. You know,
Mona Lisa.
I'm going to go with any of them. I would which one's yours?
Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa. The Nappy Heads one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that album, but I do like that album. Definitely like that album, Darren. What track would you pick off that album?
Well, right. There's a brief pause there. Would I lie to you? Pause to get you extra excited about it. I'm drawn to every ghetto, every city, but I'm gonna have to stick with Do Up That Thing because it just does everything. I'm feeling like I'm having obvious choices here, but it's just it does it all.
What's your choice?
It does it all.
John, you're shaking your head. Are you agreeing with that? Or you got another one?
I agree. That's my favourite track off that album.
Okay. My favourite track off that album is Lost Ones. Is absolute blinder. When you listen to the lyrics and what you're saying on there about just lost, that one about losing one and about, you know, how you play yourself, I just think it's absolutely class. It's, if you listen to the lyrics in the way the beat drops, you know, the boom, 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 I just think it's absolutely class. People don't talk about it enough for me, but I think it's a really, really good track. That's my favourite, without a doubt.
And then, I mean, there's some super strong songs on anyway, or tracks, but yeah, I've got to go with my heart. So
what I also love about that album is the artwork on the front, because it's very much a sort of like a Bob Marley sort of album cover, you know, that kind of reggae.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I love that sort of style of the way they've done the artwork on the cover.
And then obviously, she's kept the pen, the desk, taking the school thing as much as she possibly can, and so I love it.
Okay, nice one. Thank you. Cool. Okay, Darren. So we got to you obviously into your rap tracks and hip hop in the house type of stuff. When you got to a certain age, and obviously you were going to stuff down when you were down south. When did you move up here from down south?
So I moved up here. So I was 1995. So I was 23.
Okay. So did you go to many gigs down in London when you were down there? When you were living down that way?
One.
Wow.
So,
okay. Who was that?
So I'm proud. I was embarrassed about it for a while, but this isn't even a hip hop gig. My first gig was Whitney Houston at Wembley.
Hey,
and you know, I'd fallen for Whitney, and me and my mate went, and it was really great. I've no idea who the support act was, but it was all great. It was, you know, it was the bee's knees, and she belted out and stuff. And so that was probably, I don't know, probably maybe 87, 88. And then there were gigs that I wanted to go and see, but I didn't end up going. I didn't really go into London for gigs. I went in, to see films and stuff. And it probably wasn't until I started going to festivals. So, and sort of the first time I went was probably, I worked at Glastonbury in 1994, and that set me away. So I didn't see so much hip hop at Glastonbury, but that year, me and my mates went to Reading Festival as well. And that's sort of, me being sort of getting into sort of indie music and that kind of stuff. That festivals then, particularly like Reading Festival, were really kind of like hip hop was such a big thing as well. And then the sort of the lineups were always peppered with rappers and stuff. So the main things I remember from Reading '94 was Cypress Hill were headlining on the Friday night, and then on the Saturday they had this run where they had like Pulp and Radiohead and the Manic Street Preachers and Ice Cube and Primal Scream. So it was this indie heavy one, and then Ice Cube was on, and he was sort of chanting and stuff like that, and it was really great. And I think I knew that I loved hip hop anyway, but that kind of just reminded me about how awesome it all was.
Cool.
And so so not long after that, I kind of moved up to the northeast, and again, I didn't go to that many hip hop gigs in Newcastle then.
Not been that many.
But I was kind of still going to festivals then, like, and I guess I'd seen a fair few sort of hip hop artists then. But that was when sort of clubbing came into the mix as well.
Okay.
So my mates, I was going clubbing, and I suppose mainly it was world headquarters, but also we were going to like Bulletproof, the indie club as well. Which is kind of at rock shots, and then so I was sort of dancing along to Stone Roses and Happy Mondays and all that kind of stuff. And that was when I first kind of encountered Smooth doing sort of the hip hop and the funk in the back room in the other room of Bulletproof.
Okay, cool.
So I remember falling for Paid in Full, like the 7-inch, the 12-inch like long version, and then maybe not encountering that so much since I was a teenager, and then Smooth's playing it every Friday night, and it's just like I was like, because the thing about a club with 2 rooms is if you're going to get your mates from the other room, it needs to be for a really good reason. You bring them through, and they're like, "Hang on, I was better off in the other room." So, like when Smooth would be playing something like that, I'd be running in and grabbing them to come back, and they'd be like, "Yeah," and Eric B and Rakim, like that particular track is sort of kind of the anthem of that era. But in fact, the main room would be playing.
But that remix that also got a lot of the sort of like the non-hip hop believers involved in sort of like listening to some hip hop, if you remember, because that got played like pop wise, didn't it? It was popular. With that remix with a I don't know what the woman's called, but like the with the sort of like Eastern singing over the top of it and that. Obviously, and at the same time, you also had the
well, it was Cold Cut who did the remix, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you had the not Pulp, what they called? Pump Up the Volume, Mars. Yeah, because they had very similar, Pump Up the Volume, Pump Up, that kind of, it was very much at that time, wasn't it? So people were crossing over. It was just when the rave scene was kicking off, and then you were also getting people that sort of checking for like Eric B and Rakim as well at the same time. Very interesting.
And I guess so in the club there, in the main room as well, I guess this is the era when there was the Jason Nevins, It's Like That remix, which was a massive hit, and I remember having that on in Bulletproof, and that meant that people were digging out there, or the DJs were digging out there It's Tricky and digging out their 7-inch
original
Run DMC singles because people were kind of into it and asking for it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So in a way, whilst it was a big pop smash hit, like I guess it did get people interested. And I mean, having said that, then you know, as a teenager, I was all about, you know, well, this is right, this is pop, so this is that. In fact, you know, hearing like, I don't know, Can You Kick It, Tribe Called Quest in the club was like, right, okay, well, that's another banger, and that's got me interested in that, and, you know, whatever else. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that, Darren. That's a nice little like journey through some of your hip hop history, and it's been interesting to listen because everybody who's given their hip hop history, obviously, it's from their point of view, and that's very different to what we've heard so far, isn't it, John? So thanks for that.
Definitely.
And bring us your next album, please.
Okay, so the next one is going to have to be this one.
Okay.
So
yeah.
that's
Ill
Communication.
Okay. Interestingly enough, up until John sent me it, I haven't really listened to it before. I don't own it, so I have heard it before, but I've never really listened to that much because I don't own it. I've got I think I've got 2 Beastie Boy albums, and then I've got their sort of like anthology albums, like a big thick 3 CD album thing. Obviously got
the anthologies, the sound of science.
Yes, yeah.
It's called, yeah. I've got that too.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like it had to be this one.
Okay.
I think because of the era, you know, like, so this was 94. So the Beastie Boys were playing Glastonbury the year that I went. I didn't end up seeing them. I didn't see the Beastie Boys till much later. But I kind of, it's got everything. It's like, if I could be critical of it, I'd say there's a bit too much on it. It's packed with stuff. So what? There's 20 official tracks on there, and you know, like there's sort of funky 70s instrumentals. There's the Buddhist chant bits. There's sort of all this kind of sample heavy hip hop. There's sort of the hardcore Sabotage style kind of shouty stuff. So, you know, I wondered whether this might be the one, a bit like Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, if maybe they weren't quite hip hop enough to make it onto my favorite 5, whether they didn't quite tick all the boxes, because there's a shed load going on here, and it's a lot of it's a bit bonkers. That there's the 3rd track, B-Boys, has got like a looped sample of sheep barring, and it's just like, who, you know, like, yeah, it's got a really nice kind of, for I guess a pretty kind of mainstream album. Like, I don't know loads about, I've read the book, but from what I gather, Paul's Boutique came out, and they were given a hard time because it was so sample heavy. Some of the samples are amazing in that, and they've come back with this, or I think they did an instrumental album and came back with this, if my history is right, and there's no half measures in it. They're chucking it all out all over the place. You know, the rhymes are great. Like I think the pop culture references are phenomenal. Some of them are a bit hard. You know, there's my mate was into Vaughan Bodie comic books, and Vaughan Bodie gets a mention in this somewhere, and it's just, yeah, it's really there's loads going on in it.
Okay.
So and yet somehow they've got a run of brilliant bangers in. Some really great sounding dance floor fillers. So, John, do you want to comment on it?
That's my favourite Beastie Boys album.
Is it?
I love that album, yeah. Like you said, it's a bit of everything. But I think that album, I mean, the first album, a lot of people like it because of the rock side of it. That's how a lot of people got that. I think it brought a lot more stuff into it, and it made them a lot more credible. I think, where I thought the first album they were meant to be saying a bit of a
joke, novelty.
No, yeah, a bit of a novelty.
Yeah,
Paul's Boutique absolutely brilliant as well. But that one, I think, it's just one of the best albums. I'm surprised I didn't put that in my top 5, actually. My favourite 5. Which, because Sure Shot's one of my favourite tracks ever.
Yeah, mine too. And I guess the other thing is, considering how, there's an element of misogynism. Well, we haven't really, particularly, like, I guess some of the stuff on Ill Communicate, in License to Ill.
Yeah.
It is, it doesn't sit that well.
Yeah.
Where I think this has aged pretty well.
Yeah.
And Sure Shots, I think, is it right, John? Sure Shots sort of actually has a shout out to the mothers and the ladies.
Yes.
It's sort of, I think, again, I don't know much about history, so I don't know whether this is them consciously trying to redress any previous sort of, I
think possibly, because I know there was that Beastie Boys documentary, which was
mentioned on there. They were talking
about.
Yeah,
it was mentioned on there, but I mean, I've not seen it for a long time now. So
yeah, I mean, if you get a chance to watch the documentary, Darren, it's on. You'll probably have to get it now on YouTube. Now it's calmed down, but it was released on Apple.
It's one of those ones I'm planning to watch because I love Spike Jonze. Like obviously the Sabotage video in this is like awesome and amazing. Yeah. And I think he did the Sure Shot video as well. And so I know, I think, because I listened to a fair bit of Six Music too, and Lauren Vernon kind of said that the film's a good companion piece to the book. So I've got Apple TV, so I will.
Have a check of it. It's quite interesting. You can see you've got. I think I'm not making excuses for anybody, but I was talking about. I can't remember what I was talking about this about just before. But when I think about my journey and where I come from and my influences, being a different way in the house when your parents are around and being with your friends and wanting to fit in and saying some of the stuff that I'm obviously gutted that I used to say, but things I used to say to people and the so-called thoughts I had. I'm not like that now. I'm a man now. I'm a dad now. I've changed. I'm a youth worker. I went on a journey, and if I go back, and if people wanted to put me in the dock for the stuff I said when I was 18, 19 year old, then you could try this, but it's not me now. And they were kids when they brought out License to Ill, and actually they had men that were encouraging them to be like that as well. And you think about they were kids, and you had older people encouraging them to be like that because it would sell records. When I saw them, they had first time on live, they had women in cages dancing and gyrating and all that. It was like a strip show, like a lap dance and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't do that now because they've grown up, and I think you've got to. It's not about always looking about, well, that's what you did when you. It's like, they did that. They were encouraged to do that of older people. They've grew up and they've rejected it and they speak out against it now, and I think that's what you got to respect. For me,
and there might drop the occasional sort of odd rhyme here and there on this, but it's sort of noticeable that they're sort of stepping up and being a little bit more a bit more sort of conscious of things. And I guess so the Beastie Boys. Oh, hang on. Is there a question about my favorite hip hop gig?
Well, I'm coming to that, so don't worry. So you can just store it.
Okay, so these may get an honourable mention. I don't want to jump ahead of things, but I suppose the other thing is my mate brought License to Ill round, and we listened to it really quiet in my bedroom, where this was an album that obviously I'm a grown up and I can listen to it when I want and stuff like that, and I think I've heard of the two surviving members. I've heard them talk, and they did, I think, a radio show the other week. And it's I'm always interested to hear what they've got to say, because they're still kind of they haven't settled down. They're talking more sense, but they can still muck about, which I quite like.
Which I think is great. It's like And when you watch that thing on Apple TV, that's exactly what it's about.
Okay.
Darren, it's exactly like that. You know what I mean? I'm not even a massive. Anybody knows I'm not a massive Beastie Boys fan. You'll very rarely hear me playing them. I don't go on about them that much, but it is an interesting watch. It is a really interesting watch to watch what they've got to say. So yeah. Okay, what's your favourite song of that album?
Can I tell a quick story before I say?
Yeah, go on.
I visited my mate, and who lived sort of just off Brick Lane,
Uh-huh.
and we went to there was a club, I don't know whether it's still there, called 93 Feet East. It was quite a big deal at the time.
Uh-huh.
Quite a fashionable night spot.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 07, who were like a UK kind of chill out act. They were DJing, and me and him went, and we were sort of really enjoying it, and they were playing a fair bit of sort of, I don't know, or quite eclectic beats. And then they played Get It Together.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sounded like amazing. Like, and they dropped it, and it was just like, oh my God, this is just, it was just wonderful. Like I can, sort of slightly getting kind of goose pimples when I think about it now. So that was like a moment. That was a perfectly dropped song. And so I want to say that. But
so you're getting 2 songs in now, Darren. I'm watching you. The one.
Oh, we've lost
him. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, sorry. Welcome back. We had a little bit of a technical fault there, but we're back on again. So thanks for staying with it. Carry on, Darren. Carry on.
So that was another pause just to get you to get you sort of to ramp up the tension. Again, I want to say Sabotage.
Mm-hmm. But so you've mentioned 4 songs there off that album. So you're cheating, Darren.
Okay.
I want one.
Right. It's okay. I'm going to stick with Sabotage.
Okay.
Just because it's amazing.
Yeah. The video is pretty good as well. You got, I think you can't. For me, it's like, because when I first time I heard it with a video, because I saw the video, and I was just like, what is this? Somebody who's grown up with sort of like 70s cop shows, you've just got to laugh at it when you just see all of that, John, what's yours?
Sure Shot.
What?
Sure Shot, first track.
Same with me. Sure Shot, first track for me as well. Yeah, love it. But I do like Sabotage, but I just don't really think it's to me, it's more of a punk sort of indie song than it is a hip hop song. Just personally, I don't really rate it as a rap song. Yeah, but I do like it. Okay, champion. Okay, thanks, Darren. Next album.
Straight away.
Yeah, straight away. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one has got to be Mighty Mos Def.
Yeah, nice one. Again, Darren, every one you picked so far has not been picked before.
Mm.
Okay, so this one hasn't been picked either. As a popular rapper, that's quite surprising when you think, nice one.
But I think for me, like, these are such. I'm gonna get rid of the too much reflection. For me, they're all so like obviously big ones in my life. I just assume that people would feel the same way when they obviously they like them, but the fact that people don't think about it kind of blows my mind a tiny bit. But obviously we're all different, and different strokes for different folks and stuff. But I just think he just does it.
And also, what I would also say, Darren, when you think about how old hip hop is now, was it 40 years or something now? I don't know. Started in the 70s to now. So there's a lot of classic albums that people are going to pick, to be fair. So, there's a big catalogue to pick from. So, hey, horses for courses, that's what's floats your boat. That's great. It's more interesting. Because I was worried at the start that people would just pick the same sort of like 5 albums. Everyone would just pick these are the classics, that's it. But actually, it's not panned out like that. There's been some crossover, but majority has been, I think there's no album being picked more than 3 times, and we've done about 20 odd of these now, so that's not bad, So carry on, sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, this is a bit of an odd one because I live with mates, and one of them got the Umi Says, the first single, and I was into that, and then that was kind of that, and then just on a discussion on a night out once, someone had said you need to listen to Black on Both Sides, and again because listening to albums wasn't a thing you could do without buying them. I sort of got it, and I just fell for it. I think he's as cool as you like, you know, like and going through them in terms of like the riffs and the breaks and the references is, you know, he does all that really well, and he's talking a lot of sense too, obviously, and I think like I'm not going to jump ahead and say my favourite, but like listening back recently, and particularly like Rock and Roll's the one that jumps out at me, because it's kind of, it starts with like the slave chant, and then there's some Aretha in, and there's some sort of Dionne Warwick in as well, and it's just it feels like, I don't know whether being over dramatic, but it feels like he's drawing in everything, like which hip hop does well, but I just think that he does it, and you know, the album just hangs together so brilliantly. You know, like there's a lot of dense stuff, some of which I find it hard to get my head around. But and again, I know that there's a history of sort of rappers and hip hop artists kind of getting their opinion across and getting their point across and stuff. But I think like on the Mr. N-word song on this, he's mentioning like everyone, you know, I think that's the one where he mentions Woody Allen, and he's just mentions Michael Jackson, and he's getting it all out there, and he's totally not afraid to, you know, talk about Latinos, even gringos at one point. He said, and it's just, I can't not respect him for just having conviction to say it all.
Okay, nice one. John, what do you think about that album?
I love it. I've not listened to it properly for a long time though. I always listen to Mathematics and Miss Fat Booty. They're my two favourite tracks.
Same.
But in fact, tomorrow I'm going to listen to it tomorrow, because I've not listened to it properly for a long time. So.
Okay. What's your favourite song on the album then, Darren?
Well, for a long time, I'm with John, and it would have been Mathematics.
Classic.
But as a bit of a sort of environmentalist at heart, New World Water is just great. So I'm going to do what I did before, and I'm going to mention Rock and Roll as well, because that he does everything in that. But I think it's got to be sort of in fact, no, I'm going to change my mind. Is Rock and Roll.
Okay. Darren, I don't know if you've heard Most Dub. So there's a guy called Americano Greenway or something. Is that what he's called, John?
American Gazaway.
American Gazaway, yes.
That's the album I give you, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. And what he does is he does dub version, like he remixes people's albums. So he's done a one where he's got he's done something with Biggie's stuff. So he did the Biggie one with Biggie and James Brown. I don't know if you heard that one. Absolutely amazing album. And he did one where what he's basically done is he's got classic reggae tunes and he's mixed it with a lot of Mos Def's tunes. And Miss Fat Booty and Mathematics he's done on there. I play that. I've got that album here. I play that a lot. So I sort of forget this album because I tend to play that one because I just love the Mos Dub. But Mathematics on there and Miss Fat Booty on there with a reggae thing to it is just, it works so well. It's just absolutely amazing.
He did another one, which was, with 2 seconds, I've got my phone, 2 seconds here.
Did a Talib Kweli one as well.
Albums.
When Mos Def's in
The best one was it's called Yaz and Gay. So it's that right. album with Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye, yes.
But there's two of them. They are absolutely brilliant. Well worth getting them.
Yes,
so
definitely worth checking them out, Darren. We'll send you the link.
Did you ever do a list after? I've not noticed. Do you do a list after your after the favourite fives are on to
what we've been doing?
Like things that come up.
What we've done is we've got like on our YouTube, which is our YouTube channel. We've got like a playlist of what people have picked, of their favourite fives. It needs to be brought up to date a bit. We've started it, didn't we? We'll put a lot of the stuff on, but the latest ones we'll probably need to just do a catch up to get some more back on again. But yeah, we do a playlist, so you can go back and check it out. It's on our YouTube channel, which is kind of when when I'm going for walks at the moment, and I like to whack them on and just go when I'm going for a walk and listen to what people have picked, which is nice to do. And we've also got one that I've been putting on my Spotify, which has been sort of like similar again, trying to put stuff onto Spotify. The trouble with Spotify is some of the more obscure tracks that are on Spotify, so that's been quite hard to keep that up to date. So we'll try to put them on the ones on YouTube where possible, but not every song's on there. Okay, but yeah, I would probably say Miss Fat Booty for me. Well, no, sorry. Right, I'll go mathematics. I'll go mathematics on that one.
Okay. Are we agreeing again?
Yeah, it's a worry, like, isn't it? When me and John agree, because we never agree on out normally. Okay, Darren.
And I need to give more of a justification for rock and roll, because I think I was all about mathematics, and I do love Miss Fat Booty is the amazing Aretha sample, isn't it? But in fact, listening to rock and roll again recently, I was just struck with how he doesn't mind saying about the Rolling Stones and Elvis was just stealing stuff, and when he does the hardcore rock out at the end, that should sound a bit bad, and he still carries it up. It still sounds good.
Yeah. It's funny because I went to see him live. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest. I went to see him live at Manchester or Leeds. Me and a guy I used to knock about with called Si, we went down. And we bumped into some people that we know from up here. I think Ken Masters was there, and I think Damien Mogg was there as well. But anyway, there was a few people. I was quite disappointed because I just thought it was overindulgent, and it just wasn't really a great gig for me. Like, I was a bit disappointed, but I was dying to see him live, and when I saw him, I was a bit. But years before that, I'd saw him in Manchester when he was with High Tech, and they did Black Star. That was an amazing gig. They were amazing together. Really, really. I don't think High Tech. What do you call not High Tech? Sorry, Talib Kweli. I don't think Talib Kweli gets the credit that he should get. Everybody else seems to just say he's rubbish in that, but I think it's pretty amazing to me, to be fair. Especially when he's with Mos Def together. That album, that Black Star album, I think I really rate. I really, really like it. So yeah, I like Mos Def. I do like him, but I was a bit disappointed with his live gig. Okay. So Darren, your favourite gig?
So I've mainly seen hip hop at festivals. I was tempted to give the worst, but we don't need to be negative here. I don't think I need to say what the worst is, but it probably, again. So I've got two, but I will choose one at the end. Okay. I'd seen the Beastie Boys, like the last festival I went to, which was in 2007. They were headlining at this festival on Loch Fyne.
Yeah.
Like on one of the Scottish lochs, and they came on. I think that they were kind of touring one of I think it was an instrumental album. And they came on, and there was no mucking about. They were there, the band were really tight, and it was the land that the festival was on had some sort of like fancy manor house or something. It was an estate anyway.
Yeah.
And the Beastie Boys were like, "Who lives here?" You know, like they were saying, "Is it a duke?" And they were trying to get the duke to come out and fight them, and it was just like, this is just amazing. You know, like, you know, it was just because they've got this, you know, amazing kind of body of work over this long period of time.
Uh-huh.
But they're still being idiots, you know, and still kind of joking about. And it was just, again, I think because they've been a touring band for a long time,
yeah.
and it was just sounded really tight, and it was really great.
Okay, cool, nice one.
And the other, or like I suppose we were both at the Prodigy,
Yes.
the arena,
We were
when Public Enemy was supporting them.
Yeah.
And I'd seen Public Enemy at Northumbria Uni probably in about 2003, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
And they were pretty great then. But when Prodigy and Public Enemy was probably about 3 years ago, maybe.
No, it'd be about 5 years ago.
I was going to say, so why did it not, Darren?
All right. Okay, wow. But it was that thing we talked about afterwards, about how come there were all the young people there for the Prodigy, and they'd got a good spot, and you know, Public Enemy were on, and like you could just see how much people were enjoying it, and how much they were doing it, and they sounded really great. And it was just working really well.
I have seen Public Enemy probably about 6-7 times now. I need to add it up really, because I can't remember. I've lost count. And I've always say this: if I heard that Public Enemy, obviously not at the moment because of COVID, but if I heard Public Enemy were on, I would go and see them. You know what I mean? No hesitation at all. Right there on, I'm going to see them, because I've always had a quality gig every time I've went. I've been to some more better ones than other ones, especially when they were in their heyday. But the guys are in their 60s, and they still want to give it to the crowd. They don't just come and take the money like some artists do, not just hip hop artists, but artists in general. Some of them just go there, do a lackluster show and leave, and just count the money and laugh as they drive off. Chuck D and Flavor Flav are absolutely sweating buckets when they leave the stage, because they want to give it to the crowd, and I've always respect that. You know, I've always had my money's worth when I went to see Public Enemy. Do you know what I mean? So to me, that's all I need.
I think I've got a thing. I don't expect it to happen every time, but when I go and see any band, I get sort of the hairs go up on the back of my neck when everyone's at the top of their game. Like, well, and it's like they're just doing this one thing. Yeah, they're making this moment that may or may not happen the next night when they play the next gig, but they nail it, and everything kind of aligns perfectly. And that may have happened every time you saw Public Enemy, but I mean, and again, it's unfortunate because the Prodigy were all very entertaining, but Public Enemy smashed it for them.
They did.
Like it gave the Prodigy, unfortunately, a pretty impossible task to try and.
I agree with that. I think also that I'm glad you said that, because I wasn't sure, because I'm not a massive Prodigy fan, although I do have a couple of their albums, but I'm not a massive Prodigy fan as compared to Public Enemy. But I think because I just thought it was because I'm such a big Public Enemy fan that I wasn't really that enthused by Prodigy, even though they weren't rubbish. But then obviously other people, you've said it, and a couple of other people have said the same thing. And I've spoken to some of my friends who are Prodigy fans first and like a bit of Public Enemy, and they basically said Public Enemy blew them out of the water, even on that. And I don't think the Public Enemy were that good that night, to be honest, Darren. I don't think they were that great compared to when I've seen them before, but it was still absolutely tremendous. Don't get it wrong, you know. And I think Prodigy tried to, you know, like when Flavor Flav was in the crowd and that type of stuff. Flavor Flav likes to go in the crowd, so obviously Prodigy were doing that, a bit of that as well. But it just wasn't on the same, to me, it wasn't on the same level. It wasn't the same. I just think, you know, they've really studied their craft, and they know they've got it off pat. You know, Chuck D, the way he does it, Flavor Flav, you know, even DJ Lord, obviously it's not Terminal X anymore, DJ Lord. The S1Ws are quite an age now. They're not as mobile, but they still know what to do. They still, it still gets us like, wow, when they start doing all the saluting in that sort of military movements on the stage. I just love it. Absolutely love it. I always have a big smile on my face, Brilliant.
And that sort of stuff does make a difference. I think, as I remember, the Prodigy had all these projections and all the lights and stuff, and there was a band, and then there's just the three blokes, and again, I don't need to be like, I don't need to watch stuff all the time. But with Public Enemy, there's no real reason to look away from the stage because there's so much to keep you occupied.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really, really good points. And John, do you want to add anything about Public Enemy? How many times have you seen them?
Well, do you know how many times I've seen them? It's one of my embarrassing things. I've never seen them live. The amount of times I've been to Newcastle and everything, I've just never seen them.
Can't believe that at all.
Love you one day, but no.
I've finished at Streetwise, Darren, on a midweek, and literally jumped in my car. One time, I wanted to go and see them, and I was running around saying, "Anybody fancy going to see them?" And where was it? It was down in Manchester, and nobody wanted to go. I was gutted, like, I can't believe nobody wants to go. And then I said to my son, "Do you fancy going to see Public Enemy?" He was like, "No." Because he's not into, and I goes, "All right." He goes, "Why?" I says, "Oh, nobody wants to go." He goes, "Well, I'll go with you, Dad." I goes, "Oh, I'll get you tea and that, like a nice McDonald's and all of that type of stuff." He goes, "All right." I says, "It's down Manchester, man." He goes, "Oh." Anyway, he jumped in the car with us. We flew down there, and shout out to James Watson, who helps us with our show. He was there, and we bumped into him outside the kebab shop afterwards and that, And Asher, he did enjoy it. He doesn't really go into gigs and stuff. He's not really that much into music like I am. But it was a good gig. He enjoyed it, and you could see all the crowd going. Flavor. We were upstairs because I took Asher upstairs to keep him out the way of the crowds because he didn't really want to be getting pushed all over the place. Flavor come upstairs and would pick Asher up and he's all sweaty and moved Asher to one side and all of that, and it was just Asher's experience. It was just nice to see Asher's face like, wow, this is a gig that you go to, Dad, type of thing. It was great. Loved it. I can't believe I've been to a Public Enemy gig, John. Shocking. Okay, then, Darren. Last album.
Okay, so I have to go up really close for this. My last album is this one.
Okay. So that
on cassette.
It's a cassette.
Cool.
On cassette.
Now this album has been picked before. I have had this one before. Okay, so 4 out of 5 not bad, Darren, but this one has been picked. Go on.
Oh, damn it. Oh, well.
This is about the 3rd or 4th time it's been picked, by the way.
Okay. I don't have the tape anymore.
Oof.
It being kind of an obsolete format in my life, but I kept the inlay because I love it so much. I couldn't, that couldn't be, recycled or whatever. I needed to keep it. So yeah. Yeah. So this was the first hip hop album that I bought.
Okay.
With my own money. And I didn't want to risk getting it on vinyl in case I didn't like it. And this was what, 89, I guess?
Yeah, 89, yeah. It was an early one.
And so, just got it on tape there. And I love the singles. Like, I guess by the time I got it, like Me, Myself and I would have been a single, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe Say No Go might have been single as well. I Know might have been. But yeah, so I got it home. I bought it at our price in Woking. With my own money. and I'd got it home. And I put it in the tape deck. And there's the quiz show skit thing. So I'm like, oh, great, I love this. Having not really listened to many hip hop albums before.
Yeah.
And then sort of Magic Numbers on, and I'm like, oh, I love this. This is really great. And then it just goes off in all weird directions.
It does.
And as a 16, 17, as a relatively, I don't think I was a man of the world. I wasn't a particularly well-weathered person when I was 16 or 17.
Yeah.
So, like, hearing kind of Della Orgy and stuff like that, and I was just like, what that, you know, I couldn't get my head around it. And a lot of the samples, being a 17-year-old, I didn't know, you know, all of the, I guess there's sort of, what, off the top of my head, maybe Steely Dan's one, I think, like Hall and Oates is one, you know, obviously the Magic Number, the Bob Durr, is he called? And I was just like, it kind of overloaded my mind, and there's so much of it as well. There's so much going on. And listening back to it recently, like in the potholes in my lawn, there's like a yodeling bit as well. And it's just like, oh my God. You know, I think, you know, I say that ill communication is quite a dense thing and there's a lot going on, but this is just this inspired thing where the samples are brilliant, the breaks are amazing, and basically, we're listening back to it. It feels like every song's about sex. There's ones that aren't, but it's just, it's just great. The hits are great, and it just, it's this lovely eccentric thing that exists in the world, and I just think it's tremendous.
Okay.
You know, not being a completist, I can't really think that I've spent that much time with De La Soul's Dead or their other albums. But this is just a thing of beauty and craziness as well.
John?
I love that album. I think probably my favourite track, let's see, is probably Say No Go for some strange reason. Everyone normally goes for everything else, but my favourite De La Soul album is The Balloon Mind State. I think it was the third or fourth album, which not many people are into, but that album's a classic, simple as that. So,
okay,
but yeah.
Obviously, because this is the third or fourth time this has been on. I think we've done it to death talking about it, but I will just touch over it. Obviously, I was put off when I first bought it because it was you had to turn your stereo up high because it couldn't hear it properly because the quality of the.
Oh yeah, it is really quiet. Yeah,
it's really, really quiet, and like I'd forget and then put another one on, and it would be like blasting because the volume was so high. And I think it put us off a bit for a long time, so I wasn't really into them that much. And also, I think at the time I was I've always been into more harder beats, and it was a bit sort of blunted out and soft for me, and it was a bit like, ugh. So, you know, and I wasn't really into all of that native tonguesies type stuff as well, you know. I just felt as though there was softening hip-hop because I like a bit more harder gangstery type of stuff. So I've appreciated them as I've got older, and I've went back and I've had to check them out, check that album out and the other albums as well. And what I did was I've got that album on vinyl and another one I'll come with the other album I got by them on vinyl. But then I don't know where I was, but I got a CD pack. I had about 5 or 6 of the albums all together in one like sort of, I think it was Tesco's, John at Kingston Park. I think they were selling it for cheap, where you could get like 6 of the albums in one pack. So I bought them when I used to have a CD player in my car, like an interchange. I put all 6 in when I was driving down to London once, and I just listened to the album all the way there and all the way back from London driving, and it sort of like reignited us again to like, oh yeah, I like that, I like this, I like that. And I can't remember which album it is. I think it's what's the one with like the Red Man and Chaka Khan and all of that? That's probably the album I like the most by them.
That's the one after Balloon Mind State.
Stakes Are Higher, is it? Or
yes, Stakes Are High, I think.
Yeah. It's something like that anyway. But yeah, that's probably my favourite album by them. But then it was, you know, it's not as sort of like hippied out as that album is. And just wasn't really, I've never really been a massive native. I've never really got all of the Tribe Called Quest and Della and all of that. It's not really been my thing, you know.
But yeah, so I've only seen De La Soul once, and this was probably like, you know, Glastonbury 2000 or 2002 or something. And this is the stuff that I love the most. I love the Daisy Age type stuff. So when they're coming back with the harder stuff, I was, you know, I was wishing for them to, you know, to do this, and they didn't. I mean, you know, De La Soul, I think, are quite interesting in that, like, in terms of the collaborations, they did something like, is it Rocket Fuel? They were on a DJ Shadow track maybe last year.
Yeah.
And that was on the radio. So I think, because I don't go to gigs so much, it's more about me listening to the radio now. And I think, you know, I know Riddler's talked about Six Music before, and I think maybe you'd mentioned it too, John. And Six Music is sort of what I listen to lots, and they do a pretty good spread of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, particularly like different ages of hip hop. But you know, the first time I heard that Rocket Fuel, it was like they did it, and you know, it was this really great sounding old school type anthem. And I think De La Soul doing stuff with Gorillaz and whatnot, I think that they still keep bringing it in different ways. You know, again, it's not what I love the most, but they're still there doing it. So yeah, kind of got to respect them for that.
So did you say?
Were you at the were you at the De La Soul gig at the O2?
Yeah, it was me, you, and Si, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, the sound was absolutely shockingly bad. And
I done a very good live. I've seen them about 4 or 5 times live, and I don't rate them very much live. I think they're a bit boring, to be honest.
That's the first time I've seen them. I enjoyed it, but it was Pete Rock as the DJ that night, wasn't it?
Yeah. The sound was rubbish. Obviously, saw them up last year or whatever it was, 2 years ago, up at Glasgow for the Gods of Rap. I've seen them in Bradford before, in a nightclub of all places. The opening of a nightclub called Maestro's in Bradford. My brother got free tickets and we went, me and my son's mum. And when we were there, they go, oh, by the way, De La Soul's on. I was like, oh, bonus. It was all right, but I just, every time I've seen them, I haven't had us wanting to jump out my seat or hop up and down on one foot. It's been all right. It's been head nodding, but I've not, you know. But I like to go to a gig and shock out. You know what I mean? I like to feel I've been there and to be entertained. But to be fair, there's not many artists do that. When I've been to the lives, there's only been so many. Like I say, Public Enemy always do that. Who else can I say that do that? The only other people I've seen lots of times that have really always put on a good show for me, it's been EPMD. Some people said they've seen shows when they've been rubbish, but I've never seen one of those ones because everyone I've seen them at, I think about 4 times now, it's always been a brilliant show. They've always put a lot of effort into it, you know. And that's all I want. I just want artists to not just take it for granted, but when you go there, that you get a good show to them, you know. So that's some of my best gigs, going to shows like that, like Public Enemy and EPMD. Okay, Darren, did you pick your favourite song off that album there, did you?
Okay, I'm going to have a look. See, this is the only one of these albums that I've got side 1 and side 2 for. So all the other 4 are all the ones that I've only enjoyed as one complete piece of music. I'm going to do it again. Me, Myself, and I was my first way in. But I just think everything comes together on the Magic Number so brilliantly. I think, so it's got to be that. And again, one of my favourite things about hip hop is the samples, and is hearing the original song and thinking, oh my God, that's from that, especially if it's something I didn't know.
Yeah.
Or when it works the other way around, when it's a song that I love and there's a sample done respectfully in a hip hop song. I think either way, I think that's one of my great joys in life is a perfect sample. And I think that Magic Number sample is a pretty perfect sample for me, I think.
I think for me, about samples is when you hear a song and either you hear it somewhere else, you think, oh, that's where that's from, that such and such used for their song, you know, like when you don't actually like that song by the other people, but you like it by the rapper you know what I mean, the crew that have done it, and they could have just been so clever with it, you know, like, not just to go. So a Tribe Called Quest, Can I Kick It? That's to me, it's so obvious. Not having to go at them, but it's so obvious because it's sort of like lifted nearly the whole song from it, haven't it? You know what I mean?
But it's quite skilled though.
It is. Don't get it wrong. I'm not running it down. But what I mean by that is And I'm not even a Tribe fan, to be honest. I've got two of the albums, but I'm not really that. They're not really my go-to group. One of my go-to groups.
Okay.
What I like about when it's been cleverly done, it's like you're sort of like, where do I know that from? And you're just not sure, and you get a bit of it, and then you say it to somebody, oh, that's such and such, and they're like, no, it's not. And like, yeah, it is. And then you keep listening to it, and you go and try and find out the proper one. So there's a one by Rebel MC, and he uses the Enya track, the Enya track, the famous Enya track.
Go flow.
Okay.
Yeah, and just the way he uses it, it's in that one that he does with Barrett and Levy, the Wickedest Sound, and it's got and you're just like, that's what that's from, and it took us. I was like, I know that tune. Where's it? I just love that when you're sort of like you're trying to pick, because they've chopped it up in a way that it's there, but it's not quite there. And if you listen to the original one, you don't necessarily like it, but there's something about the way they've done it that makes you like the song. I hope you understand what I mean by that, but it's just
yeah. And I think with the samples thing, with the discovering songs that you didn't realize were samples or weren't aware of them. So I know, like, I think I knew already, but like on like Baby Driver, like that's a soundtrack's packed full of it, and like so Edgar Wright talked about wanting to put in the original breaks from him, and one of them is like the whoever does Harlem Shuffle, that's obviously the start of Jump Around. Every time I hear it, I'm always a bit disappointed when it turns out to be House of Pain, because I want it to be that Harlem Shuffle, because it's such a great song. It's such a well-crafted piece of music,
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, Jump Around was like a clubbing party anthem. But I can't think of many ones that I like to hear the original of it. But sometimes it's just lovely thing.
Okay, so we'll come to the end, Darren. Is there anything else you want to say before we close it?
I asked permission to do a shout to do a name check for someone we both know, and I think I need to just say that even though I'm kind of stuck in the certain era, I've got a contact in the present, which means that, like, so our former colleague Alex Simpson, he keeps me right with modern music. So in terms of going forward, in terms of him introducing like Tyler the Creator or Frank Ocean or Chance the Rapper and stuff like that, that's not stuff I'd normally go to.
There's a reason for that, because I'm going to tell you, Alex, when you're watching this, it's because it's rubbish.
Tyler's good.
No.
But going into things with an open mind is nice, Fred. Like,
I'm very open. I'm very open. It's just rubbish. Go on.
So I nearly said my worst hip cog. It's very late. I can't say it, but that's the one. And like, I don't think I'll mention it because it's a bit disrespectful. But me and my now wife went to V Festival, and Kanye was on, and he had. So again, this was maybe 2006, something like that.
Yeah.
And my wife Rachel said, "What's he wearing?" And he had a red jumper on with a McDonald's French fries picture on. So, and he looked right buffoon. But he rocked it really well. This is probably his second album, and it's just like so. And because Alex is such a massive Kanye fan, because when it's been Yeezy season or whatever, I've listened to all the albums, and I've gone in with an increasingly open mind, and it's quite nice to do. It doesn't mean that I've gone back to any of them, but and I've not got my finger on the pulse of right now, but I'm thinking it's quite nice just I'm warming to the newer stuff, and particularly stuff that isn't all over Six Music.
I'm quite proud to say that I can't stand him. He's not a bad producer. He's produced one of my favourite hip-hop songs, as in, Dead Prez. He produced that, hip-hop. But I just think not just the way he's been acting recently, but just I've never liked him. I just don't get all of that. When I remember when my daughter got the album and she says, "Oh, Dad, you like this?" and she was dead proud, brought a CD and says, "Oh, put it on your laptop so you can listen to it." And it was the one, College Dropout or something it's called.
See, the first album, I don't mind.
Nah, rubbish.
First album's good. Second one is all right. And then he started to go a bit, and then I've just...
can't stand his rhyme style. I just don't think he's a very good rhymer. Rapper, sorry. I just,
But he's more of a producer than a rapper, though. That's the thing.
Then he should stick to that, then, shouldn't he? Because he's rubbish at rapping. And then to add insult to injury, he's just turned into a massive bellend. So, so it's even worse for me. I can't be dealing with him. I've got no, obviously, each to their own. But I suppose the biggest thing is I always say this. I don't want to run the young'uns off for what they listen to. They can listen to what they want to listen to. I don't sit there and say it's not proper hip hop. It's not my type of hip hop. And I sometimes get sucked into that kind of, it's not hip hop. It's like, what is hip hop really? Because hip hop isn't really a music. Hip hop music is part of hip hop culture if it's done the right way. But you've got to remember all the other parts of the elements as well. If we're starting to talk about hip hop, but I'm not going to get me soapbox about that now because we'll come to the end of this. But it is a debate for another time, I suppose. But he's just, a lot of the modern stuff, it's just not for me, and I'm happy in my lane and I'm happy with listening to the other stuff. But I have checked out some people. John tries to keep us right and tries to pass some of the newer stuff on to us. Most of it is a miss with me, but I do like one of the Joey Badass albums I was listening to just before Christmas. I quite like some of the songs off there.
America's Nightmare.
No, I don't know. Is it called?
Yeah, it was. I'm sure it was.
No, it was the other one where it's got like reggae coloured cover, like red, gold, and green cover type of thing. Like,
I know the one you mean, right? Yeah.
But I listen to it on Spotify, so I might listen to that one as well, John. So you might be right.
Well, it's the one that I sent you. We were talking about. It's like with the blue cover when he's hanging out in the car.
Yeah.
The cover.
Yeah.
I really like that one. And his first album's brilliant, but I've only heard it.
Some Kendrick I can listen to, and some I just can't stand. There's a massive difference between what I like by him and what I don't like by him. There's not like a sort of like, well, that's all right. There's just, that's good, that's really rubbish. And I haven't got anything in between. But yeah, I think you're right, Darren. You do the right thing to try and listen to new stuff. You can't just keep listening to. But I'm stuck in the past. Sorry. No.
I struggle with a bit with Kendrick Lamar as well. That I think what he's doing is great, but again, I'm a man who's just turning 50, and I'm patient up to a point, and then I'm just like, actually,
Try Joey Badass. Yeah.
Okay.
You might like Joey Badass, so try him. Okay, we'll come to an end. Have you got any last words, John?
No. Thank you for taking your time out to speak to us, and it's nice to have totally different albums. What people have said, and that's a good thing about what we do. It's everybody's different, and it's nice to not just have the same albums every time. Yes. Not that we've had them every time, but this is completely different than what we've normally had. If that makes sense. Definitely. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Darren, you got any last words?
Just thanks. I think I did let Fred know that I wasn't super keen, and particularly, like putting myself out there, and maybe I had concerns that maybe I didn't have enough credentials, but Fred reassured me that I have, and yeah, it was. I think one of the things I like the most is actually being encouraged to think about it. I hadn't thought about Bad Young Brother for quite a while. Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought about the road crossing advert for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So it's been really nice just to reflect on how hip hop's impacted on my life, which it has a fair bit, So so it's been really great. Thanks very much, lads.
Thank you, Darren. I think again. Thanks very much. I know there's been a lot of arms up the back and pestering in the office at Streetwise and that. And Catherine, when you're watching this, say it's not that bad. Darren's done it. There's no excuse. I'm sure you can come on. Yeah, we're nice and kind. Yeah, so
I survived.
Catherine, get yourself on. I just think it is nice to have different people's points of view. We can't just have everybody the same. And hip hop culture is a massive culture. Whether you're a graffiti artist, breakdancer, into the music. People like me who's actually into the community spirit of hip hop more than anything else. before the music. I believe in the community side, so it's great to do that. Again, Darren, thanks very much for giving up your time.
Very welcome.
We are the Vinyl Vandals. Who are the Vinyl Vandals? We are me, King Fred, John, Julie, and DJ Riddler. DJ Riddler has a show every Monday night on Method Radio from 7 till 8 on the MixLR app. Please get involved in that. Support your boy Riddler. Me and John have a mix show once a month on MixLR Method Radio. And that is called The Seven Bridges, and we like to do just like have a mix of some kind of sort of theme. It's a loose theme. We just like to be able to just mix some songs together and put them out. It's an hour's show. So as I say, it goes out at the end of is it the last Monday of the month, is it, John? It is, isn't it?
No idea. It just
Monday,
turns up.
last Monday of the month, anyway. We'll let you know, and we'll be posting it. Also, I've got something called, that I do with my son, Fathead Asher, which is called the Trinity Detective. Me and Asher are the Trinity Detective. That's on my shoulder there. That's the guy there with the Puma suede on and the Kangol hat. Searching out trainers. If you've got trainers, what we normally do is we go, Asher as a filmmaker, we like to go into people's houses and interview people about their trainer collection. We can't do that at the moment, so we can do it through Zoom. If you've got lots of trainers and you would like to just have a little bit chat about your 5 favourite trainers, please let us know so we can come and interview you. We are the Vinyl Vandals. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out on Facebook, check us out on Instagram, and check us out on Twitter. Thank you. Peace.